Hi, uh, this is Janet Fitch, and it is noon on Thursday. We had Thursday for Wednesday because I had emergencies yesterday, so uh, we postponed a day, and here we are together. This is Writing Wednesday, where I answer your writing questions, philosoph- philosophical questions, craft questions, you know, business questions, all kinds of everything writing goes on here. And so every noon on Wednesday normally. And if you have questions for me today, put them in the chat and I am happy to answer them for you. And if you have, hi Meredith, and if you have questions for me between times, write to me through my website, Janet Fitch Writes, and I am happy to answer your writing questions. I can even make a whole Writing Wednesday around your question. So please send me questions. I love them. And if you are not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to my station. It really helps me, encourage me to keep doing this. So I thank you for that. And so today's question was from Tony. So Tony, if you're here today, um, she writes, first, I want to thank you for your YouTube channel. Thank you. And giving me the opportunity to ask a question, of course. I recently discovered White Oleander, really enjoyed it. Thank you. Uh, eh, Lots of praise for my books, which is nice. Um, Nobody ever gets too old for that. And I was even more impressed and inspired when I learned you were not an English major in college, and neither was I. I learned to write via craft books, YouTube, and reading high quality books. So the same way I learned, and then taking extension classes, and finally finding a mentor and doing summer conferences like the one at Community of Writers, where I continue to teach, and will be this summer, by the way. I understand. Oh, here's a question. Okay, here's the question. I understand and agree with the importance of conflict. But what about scenes that show characters bonding or enjoying happy moments? What is the best way to handle those and keep them interesting? Is it ever okay to have breaks from conflict, highs to counter the lows? Or should conflict in some form be in every scene, even in the happier moments? For example, in my current story, there is a scene where my protagonist's mother gives her a dress that belonged to her grandmother. This is an important scene because I'm later going to destroy the dress. Writers always do this. um, but the gift scene itself is supposed to be more heartwarming, or is that just boring? Haha. Thanks for any advice, Tony. Okay, so this is a wonderful question. Do happy scenes need to have conflict? Um, they need, we call it conflict. Um, they need to have some sort of um, element that destabilizes them. So you can call it conflict. That's what it's normally called, but you don't have to think of it that way. They need movement. And what conflict does is it provides the movement to the scene and the drive into the next scene. So a beautiful corpse is still a corpse. It's just not moving. Um, and conflict makes the scene move. Um, so it can be discovering, hi Jeffrey, good to see you. It's good to, it's a good question to say, do we need to have conflict in every scene? You need to have movement in every scene, and the conflict generally provides the movement. So say here's your meeting with um, this is um, meeting with the protagonist's mother, who gives her a dress that belonged to her grandmother. So there are so many wonderful possibilities for movement in a scene like that. It, it doesn't have to be mano a mano, 12 rounds with Mike Tyson. Uh, it, but it has to change. It has to have change. So, what would be the change of a mother showing a dress by a grandmother that would make the scene worth having a scene? There's a reason why in movies, um, happy couple getting together is usually shown as a montage, and here they are having ice cream, and here they are skipping through the park, and here they are, you know, um, dancing in the dark. Everybody's seen that montage. The reason they do it is because it's not really a scene unless you have some kind of movement, some kind of conflict or change. Um, and all that ice cream eating and going around in the carousel just doesn't have the it doesn't have the materials to make a scene out of. So say a movie like a Breakfast at Tiffany's, to pick a movie that has a love story in it. There is a scene where the couple is, as played by, if you want to picture it, it's Audrey Hepburn and George Peppard, um, in a drugstore. And the girl, Audrey Hepburn, challenges the boy who's super into her. So they're having a happy scene where they're doing fabulous things, and um, she challenges him to steal a children's mask. So, she has one that's a cat, and he has one that's the droopy dog, which is um, nice little metaphor for the two of them. Um, she's going to teach him to kind of break free. It's one of those kind of stories. And so they are on this larky date, but then she throws in a challenge. So there is a conflict in a happy scene. You know, can he do the thing that's unlike him and to rise to her expectations that he's going to be more fun than that? Um, and of course he does, and they go running out into the street, haha. So the emotional tone has changed. It's gone from this we're all grown-ups here having our date, and it's going nicely, but it's going as this guy is expecting it to go. And then there's a challenge, so there's a turn. It's like, oh, you're challenging me to do something that I'm not uh, excited about doing, as I'm afraid to do it. And then I take a leap, and then I go running out. So the emotional tone has risen tremendously once, the shock of being challenged, and then the daring the leap to grab that challenge, and the exhilaration of that. So there has been a change, and there's a change in the character too, because he's gone from somebody who would never do that at the beginning of the scene to someone who, because of this crazy girl, is doing stuff that surprises him, and lets her more into his life, and vice versa. So let's take the grandmother scene, the mother and daughter wedding dress, or is it a wedding dress? A dress that belonged to her grandmother. What it would depend, you set it up if the mother and the daughter have had problems in the past. and the mother surprises the daughter. If that production of that dress is a surprise and an offer, like a peace offering, or um, maybe it's the grandmother had been kind of an adventurous person, and the girl maybe is a very stuck in the mud type of person. Um, the mother giving that dress to the daughter and telling her the story. Hi, Hope. And Princess D2E, nice to see you. What if when the mother offers the dress and tells the story of the dress, it's something that she's trying to convey to the daughter, that you need like a little bit more of this in your life. Um, and then whether the daughter is going to accept the dress or not then becomes a turn. You're looking for the turn, you're looking for the change of mood. So a character in a happy scene surprising another character is very useful. And, if the dress means something, or for example, mother, if say the dress is a wedding dress. I know this isn't necessarily your story, but it's a good, way to portray this. Say the dress is a wedding dress, and say the girl is marrying somebody that the mother does not approve of. Let's say for good reason. Let's say the daughter is marrying some guy who's got is not what he seems, and or it's out of the mother's wheelhouse, and we've gotten to the point where the mother, the daughter wants the mother to accept that boy or that man for whoever he is, meaning accept me for who I am, that I'm not you. I'm going to marry this guy. And for the mother then to pull out the grandmother's wedding dress and give it to the girl is to say, I don't approve of this guy. I don't like him. I don't like the idea of marrying him, but I'm accepting now that you are who you are, and I am going to give you this dress. Then you're getting some emotional movement in the scene. So you always have to use the scene. So even if it's a happy scene, um, you can keep it interesting. So shows characters bonding. Okay, I hate certain words. I'm sorry to say, um, if I never hear the word bonding again, it will be too soon. I don't like using pop psychology words where there's a full vocabulary of words to describe people coming together, people becoming friends, uh, people getting close. I mean, there are all kinds of words. Let's retire bonding. And if you can, if you could bear it, to retire gifting as well. Giving is a perfectly good word. Gifting comes from tax law. It's a corporate word. Corporate giving, gifting, all that is about the tax code ultimately. And so if we can get rid of gifting and bonding, I would be extremely happy. So let's try it. Um, so let's say, but what about scenes that show characters coming together or enjoying happy moments? Um, you can always have surprise in a scene like that, emotional change. So if it's a happy moment, we're if it's a picnic, um, you can have, you're getting ready for the picnic, you get a bag and you're throwing in the Doritos and the bean dip and a can of bean dip and maybe one of those Lunchable type of pre-wrapped, snack food, and you throw it in there and you go to the picnic, and the person you're meeting or the group that you're with, um, starts to like, they have hampers, and the beautiful bread comes out, and the cheese, and a little table, and olives, and, the way the Europeans do it. And there you are with your bag of Doritos and your Lunchables, you know, and it's an embarrassing moment, even though it's a happy scene. There can be that, like, "Oh, fuck," and maybe your friends, "Oh, let's see what you brought," and opens it up, and it's Doritos and bean dip and Lunchables, and it's like, "Oh, no, 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 I didn't bring the bean dip," and what if your friend rips open the Doritos and says, "I love these things. I don't know why I never buy them," And suddenly it's like, "Wow, I can actually be myself with this person. I don't have to, front." And, I just you can spin a happy scene. You just have to allow yourself to not just, you know it's not just lathering yourself with whipped cream. That's what's boring. You have to allow a little bit of vinegar or a little bit of jalapeno, or you have to allow a surprise and where the intent or the expectations of the characters um, are met with a completely different scenario. You have to twist it in some way, and then you can have your happy scene and um, and keep it interesting so the reader doesn't know what's going to happen because somebody just threw a curveball. So that's a good way to handle it. Uh, Characters coming together. It's the surprise element. You're telling it, normally stories are being told from one person's point of view. Um, so whenever you upset what the character was expecting to happen, it's always that little bump in the road that once it sorts itself out in one way or the other, they get closer. I mean, that can certainly be um, an element of a gathering friendship. Two girls are sitting up late at camp, in their tent, and they're talking and, you know, making their lanyards or whatever they're doing. And somebody says something about themselves that they didn't, that's like way off. It's like I have three parents. They're in a throuple. I never heard, a what? Three? Okay. So we're bonding, we're definitely getting to be friends. And what does it mean that this person is so different from you? Can you still be friends? They're still making a lanyard just like you, but the world is changed now. You know, you're living in a world where kids can have three parents at home that live together. Wow. So there's always, even when people are coming together, there's curveballs all the time, all the time. Um, Somebody can be far more observant than you expect, which also throws a curveball. If you have two kids and one of them's sort of still in that dream state in teenager, still in sort of a dream world and not very observant, but much more about how they're feeling and how they're looking and what so and so is wearing. And then the other kid might have an insight into something that our kid has never even imagined, sees something about someone that the other kid has never even seen. So it's not only are they learning something new about the world, but they're learning something new about this friend, that they see things that other people don't see, that they certainly wouldn't have seen. So that offers a reason for the scene and a change in the tone. And then, and that actually they get closer. They can either get thrown out or they can come closer because of that. So Meredith says, if I'm watching a film that's a drama or suspense, and there's a scene where everybody's happy or something great happens, it's a good clue that something terrible is about to happen. And that's the writer's need. That's the need of story. My husband is a writer, and he has a theory of story. There's three parts, three needs in a story. There's the need, the character's need. There's what is it? The character's need, the need of he's not here. I would be able to ask him. Um, and then there's the need of the story, or the writer, what the writer needs from the story versus what the character needs. And sometimes it's a bit of a dance. Sometimes in life, the character would have just said, screw you, and walked off and never returned. But the writer needs them to return. So it's a dance between what the character needs, maybe what the scene needs and what the writer needs. But usually the writer and the scene, that's the same thing. And it's negotiation. You can't avoid what the story needs. But you have to take into consideration what the character wants and needs. So it goes back and forth. Yeah, so if every time something good happens, something bad is about to happen, you even have to challenge that a little bit. You can give them a good respite in happy scenes that have maybe a little bit of a upset involved. I know I hate to use my work as example, but it because I don't do any prep for this. I think there's a sequence of scenes of um, a summer in the country. My character in The Revolution of Marina M is kind of set into the country to get her away from this guy. And there's a series of scenes of really contentment and charm about this place and memories about this place. But there's always either a challenge or a surprise, a change that she hadn't noticed that kind of ruffles her. So nothing bad happens, but yeah, it's like a long summer before the revolution. And you modulate because there can be different kinds of happy moments, and they can have little conflicts inherent in the scene that may presage other things happening. If you ever been in a happy scene yourself and then thought, this is going to go away. I can't, this is not going to last. This might be our last, this is my last summer. I had a little tiny short, I do, tell you to do those shorts, 2 pages, double spaced, using a word that as a prompt. And I have one called The Last Pepper Tree Summer. And it's a girl in the valley in LA, which used to be country when I was a kid, the valley, San Fernando Valley. And there were girls who would ride around their horses bareback or with sheepskin pads and just wander around on these shoulderless roads. And I have her, she's going off to school and she's to college in the East, and she's wondering whether her horse will remember her when she gets back. And she rides her horse through a development it's just string and stakes in Van Nuys, which is an area in the valley, and thinking, she can't picture that there's going to be anything here. There are going to be houses here. So you can show a happy moment at a cusp, and the character can get a whiff of what's coming. And that sense of nostalgia, even often young people have that. that's because they're moving through time and they have that sense that this could be the last time that they see this. Um, uh, Hope says, like the Mask of the Red Death, everything was great until death showed up. Yeah, but the progression of colors, this is Poe's Mask of the Red Death, where the character comes to a party and it's the plague is happening outside, but they've managed to keep it out. And then he's entering a party and he goes from room to room and each room is a different color. So it's a yellow room and the orange room. And then as you get to the inky, we go to red and then there's an inky black room that, just the progression of colors, that something's coming. As the colors deepen, he gets more anxious. And, yeah, the Mask of the Red Death, Poe is wonderful about this. So, yeah, you can address those happy scenes. Take a look at, anybody can think of masterful novels that have those happy scenes, those parties, those, love affairs and stuff. Um, there, there can be that feeling that this is just so momentary and that we will never be like this again. Is a different expectation than the expectation that, oh, this is just the beginning. We're going to, this is the beginning of a new life. Um, People who have that sense that this is a moment that is passing gives a dimensionality to those scenes. Let's see, how are we doing? So this has a Princess D2E asks, how do you know when it's time to shelve a novel during the first draft? I'm not sure if the story isn't just right, or my process is wrong, or I'm just no longer interested in the story anymore. It's going to happen, that your interest in the story, your commitment to the story can rise and fall. If it happens in the first draft, I would just jump to some part of it that interests you and write about that. Um, I usually will the time that I've had a novel was when I kept writing and writing and writing and nothing came together. Nothing, a novel has to coalesce, and it just wasn't. I was producing pages that just weren't coalescing. And I spent 3 years doing that. Had to set that novel aside. But on a first draft, if you are losing interest in it, then definitely shelve it and go on to something else. If you have a pattern of starting something and shelving it, then you have to look at that as a separate issue. So Hope asks, these streams are helpful. I'm writing historical fiction, short story to enter in a contest and want to win that $1,000. Well, good. I hope you do. I hope you do. So let's see, something that is, what are books that you like that have like certain scenes, really good scenes? You can use a happy scene to do business in the middle of it. It's just like in a movie when lovers are in bed and then they can talk about anything. So they don't have to talk about, what goes where. I have seen in a happy scene in Chimes of the Lost Cathedral, the Russian second book, where she is in bed with her lover, and they've already done the deed, and they're very comfortable. And he's showing her a map of the Civil War because he works for the railroad, and they had the telegraph. So all the censorship that was going on in the rest of the country, the railroad men knew what was actually happening. They knew the troop movements. They knew where the battles were happening because they had to let the trains know what they were going to expect on their line. Um, and so it was a comfortable, loving scene, but I was able to talk a lot about the Russian Civil War using the scene. So you can use a happy scene to do business, whereas often a conflict-filled scene um, doesn't, you don't have time to unfold a lot of information. So you can use those happy times uh, to best advantage. Um, Hope says, to the lighthouse. I remember flowers and a party and happiness. Yeah. And there were characters, especially the mother in that book, To the Lighthouse, who has very, very interesting and acute observations of people and their social relationships. So there can be a fun party, and then Mrs. Ramsey can notice something. Her emotions change a lot in these scenes too. To the Lighthouse. Read it with a pen in your hand and notice the shifts of emotion where maybe she likes someone, she dislikes somebody at the beginning of the scene, and she sort of, something happens, she sort of feels sorry for them, and then she starts to like them more, and then they do something else that cancels that out. It's like, no, I was right to begin with. I don't like this guy. um, so yeah, you can have the emotions move, the characters' feelings can move through a happy scene and change. So Meredith says, I just reread Rebecca, and the part where the second Mrs. De Winter realizes Maxime loves her more than he loved Rebecca is such a flood of relief. And then it's cut short. So Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, a wonderful book if you like that kind of thing, which I do, very romantic, mysterious kind of thing. I love a book like that. Hope says, yeah, I love Rebecca. So yeah, it changes her expectation of her husband. Oh, he really loves me more. And then something happens like, oh, he does not. So you can use the happy moment, you can twist it, you can throw a curveball that really, but if you don't want that, if you want to end on that high note, that, you know, then something has to change further up in the scene so that you've earned that pleasure, like, going on that date in breakfast at Tiffany's, and then having the challenge of stealing the mask, and then the high of having done it. What else brings that to mind? I mean, I can think of balls in Tolstoy, War and Peace, the great ball with Prince Andrew Bolkonsky and stuff. And there's a lot of business that takes place during that scene. I'm reading, I just finished The Leopard by de Lappedusa, and it's about the change, Italian unification from the point of view of an aristocrat in Sicily. And he's always very moody. There can be wonderful scenes, but his mood can change in an instant. Um, so it doesn't have to stay a happy, it doesn't start and end a happy on the same emotional note. You have to change it to get some gas in the tank. Um, let's see, good happy scenes in stories. Early on in Gone with the Wind, there's certainly parties and happy scenes in that, which then get twist turned by the impulsivity of the protagonist. She's the one who tweaks people and messes things up. Um, but anything that heightens that pleasure is also a change. So, for instance, I have in Marina M, close to the beginning, my character's crushing on this guy and has been since she was a little girl, friend of her brother's. And she's excited, but she's kind of testy because she doesn't know how to be attractive or glamorous. So she thinks being insulting is the way to go, and ends up in a closet with him And it's just like, oh my God, this something I've always wanted is about to happen, and how freaked out she is. So there's emotional movement even in a happy scene where somebody is, doing exactly what you've always dreamed of. It can be terrifying too, you know. So stay close to the emotion is a really good idea. So any other questions about this? Um, so we have this shelving of the novel during the first draft. Yeah, if you lose interest in your story in the first draft, that's not good. You can go back to the point in your book um, where it was still exciting to you, and see if you made a wrong turn. Because you can always tear out some stuff and put in some other stuff. Say you were very interested in it until, um, Sue and Bill got married, and then suddenly all the life went out of it. It's like, oh, well, maybe they don't get married. Or maybe you jump ahead 10 years and the marriage is falling apart. So that's a couple of little tools that you can use. Well, I want to thank you for coming for Writing Wednesday on Thursday. Uh, and then make sure, if you've enjoyed this, to subscribe. Yeah, it helps me a lot and makes me feel like you're part of the party. Thank you. And we'll see you next Wednesday for Writing Wednesday. I think next Wednesday. When's Thanksgiving? It's close, but I think it's Thursday. I think Thanksgiving is always Thursday. So I'll see you Wednesday. And have a good week. All right, write well. Bye bye.